My name is Logan Fahey. I'm 31 years old, and 5 months before my wedding, I found a Tinder notification lighting up my fiancé's phone while I was folding our laundry. That tiny sound changed my entire life. At the time, Ethan and I had been together for 3.5 years. We'd lived together for 2. We had the kind of life people online envy without really understanding. Shared rent, a golden retriever named Archie, Sunday Costco runs, a kitchen drawer full of tangled charging cables and takeout menus. We even had matching coffee mugs his mother bought us the Christmas after we got engaged. I worked as a project coordinator for a mid-sized construction company. Ethan worked in pharmaceutical sales. Between us, we made enough to feel stable. Not rich, not glamorous, just comfortable enough to start talking about houses and future children and retirement plans before 35. We'd spent the last year building a wedding fund together. $14,000. That number matters later. The day everything cracked open felt painfully normal. I was sorting towels in our bedroom while Ethan showered. His phone buzzed on the nightstand beside me. I glanced over automatically, expecting maybe a food delivery notification. Instead, I saw Tinder. For a second, my brain simply refused to process it. My chest tightened so hard it physically hurt. My fingers went cold around the towel in my hands. I remember sitting on the edge of the bed staring at the wall while the shower kept running in the background. I didn't touch his phone. I didn't snoop. I just waited. 20 minutes later, Ethan walked out in gray sweatpants, rubbing a towel through his damp hair like the world was perfectly intact. That almost made it worse. At dinner, I finally said it. Quietly. "Hey, I saw a Tinder notification on your phone earlier." And Ethan, the man I was supposed to marry, didn't panic, didn't deny it, didn't even look embarrassed. He grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge and casually said, "Oh, yeah, I've been meaning to talk to you about that." I actually laughed once because I thought he had to be joking. He wasn't. He sat across from me at the kitchen table and explained, calmly, like he was discussing internet service options, that he intended to keep his dating apps active until the wedding. "I need a backup plan," he said. Exactly like that. No hesitation. No guilt. What if things don't work out? I don't want to start over from nothing. I stared at him so long my eyes started burning. Then he leaned back in his chair and added, "It's not like I'm sleeping with anyone. I'm just keeping my options open." Keeping his options open. 5 months before our wedding. He smiled slightly and said, "Honestly, you should feel flattered I'm still choosing you." Flattered. That word hit harder than the Tinder notification. I remember looking at our engagement photo hanging near the kitchen doorway, me smiling at him under winter lights while he kissed my forehead. Everyone online had called us perfect together. Meanwhile, he was shopping for replacements behind my back. I should have screamed. Should have thrown the ring at him. Instead, I just nodded slowly and said, "That's honest, at least." And Ethan smiled, like he'd won the conversation. "See," he said, "this is why we work. We can talk about anything." That night, I lay beside him while the glow from his phone lit up half his face in the dark. He scrolled for almost an hour. I kept wondering which app he was using. Tinder. Bumble. Hinge. Maybe all of them. I didn't cry that night. Not yet. Something colder settled inside me first. Clarity. Ethan didn't respect me. He didn't respect the relationship we'd built. And he definitely didn't respect the $14,000 we'd spent the last year saving while pretending we were building a future together. So I made a decision. Not out of rage, out of understanding. The next morning, I called my friend Natalie. She worked in finance, gorgeous, in a polished, intimidating kind of way. Sharp cheekbones, perfect hair. The kind of woman people automatically assume has her life together. I asked if I could borrow some of her photos for something weird and promised I'd explain later. She agreed immediately. 3 hours later, I created a Tinder profile. Name, Claire. Age, 33. Bio, recently moved here, looking for something real eventually. Simple.
Believable.
I set the distance radius low and started swiping. 40 minutes later, I found Ethan. Reading your fiancé's Tinder bio while he's sitting 10 feet away eating leftover pasta is a kind of emotional sickness I can't properly describe. His bio said, "Not looking for anything too serious, just seeing where life goes." 5 months before our wedding. I had a dress fitting scheduled that Saturday. I swiped right. We matched almost instantly. My stomach turned so violently, I had to lock myself in the bathroom for a minute before responding. Then I turned on screen recording, and I started talking to my own fiancé. At first, the messages stayed harmless.
Flirty. Playful.
Then they started getting darker. Ethan told Claire he was technically in a relationship, but things were complicated.
Complicated.
He said he felt trapped sometimes, said his girlfriend could be emotionally draining, said he wasn't sure he was ready to settle down forever. Every message felt like swallowing glass. And still, every morning, I made him coffee. Every night, I kissed him goodnight. I walked around carrying his betrayal inside me like a live grenade. Over the next 2 weeks, Ethan sent selfies to Claire. Photos from our bathroom mirror, our couch, our kitchen. He never once mentioned being engaged. Never mentioned my name. Never mentioned the wedding his parents were helping pay for. One night, he sent a voice note while I was literally in the next room folding his dress shirts. "I think I rushed into things," he said softly. "Sometimes I wonder if I chose comfort instead of passion." I had to bite the inside of my cheek, hard enough to taste blood just to keep from reacting. I saved everything. Every message. Every voice note. Every selfie. Screen recordings backed up to cloud storage. Copies saved onto 2 USB drives hidden in my work bag. And somehow, life kept moving around us like nothing was wrong. We toured the wedding venue again. His mother texted centerpiece ideas. We argued about seating charts. Archie still followed Ethan around the apartment like he hung the moon. Meanwhile, Claire stayed active in his DMs. And Ethan got bolder. He started complaining about me constantly. Said I lacked ambition. Said I was boring.
Boring.
I managed multi-million-dollar construction logistics while balancing wedding planning and silently documenting my fiancé emotionally cheating on me from 10 feet away. Then one night, while we were grocery shopping, he casually brought up a post-nup agreement. Not a prenup. A post-nup. "My mom thinks it's smart," he said while squeezing avocados. "Just in case." Just in case. The backup plan, again. I smiled at him under the fluorescent grocery store lights. And for the first time since meeting him, I saw exactly who he was. The hardest part wasn't discovering Ethan was still shopping for options. It was pretending I didn't know. Every day became theater. I'd wake up beside him, make coffee, ask about his meetings, listen to him complain about traffic like we were still 2 people planning forever together. Meanwhile, Claire, the fake woman I'd created using Natalie's photos, was becoming more real to him by the hour. And the more comfortable he got, the uglier things became. About 4 months before the wedding, Ethan decided our $14,000 wedding fund suddenly wasn't enough anymore. He wanted upgrades. Premium open bar package, imported floral arrangements, a live jazz trio for cocktail hour because his parents' friends expected a certain standard, an extra $4,000. When I hesitated, he looked at me across the kitchen island and said, "Logan, this wedding reflects on both of us. Don't make me look cheap."
Don't make me look cheap.
Meanwhile, he was flirting with strangers from the passenger seat of my car. I said yes to everything. Not because I agreed, because none of it mattered anymore. The wedding had already died. Only Ethan didn't know it yet. Around that same time, Claire and Ethan's conversation started crossing lines that even shocked me. He began venting about our relationship constantly. "She's emotionally exhausting. She's too serious all the time. I feel like I'm already married to a 45-year-old accountant." I'd read those messages while sitting beside him on the couch, watching Netflix. Sometimes he'd kiss my forehead right after sending them. That messed with me more than the cheating itself. It made me question every soft moment we'd ever had. Every "I love you." Every lazy Sunday morning. Every future plan. One night, Claire asked him directly, "If you're unhappy, why are you getting married?" Ethan replied almost immediately, "Because leaving now would be complicated."
Complicated.
Not heartbreaking. Not devastating.
Complicated.
I stared at that message for almost an hour. Then I screen recorded it and saved another copy. A week later, he asked Claire to meet for drinks. My pulse spiked so hard, I thought I might throw up. I made an excuse through the fake account, said Claire had a late work meeting. 2 days later, he asked again. This time for coffee. Again, I dodged it. But the intent was there now. Written.
Documented. Undeniable.
And still, he came home every night acting like a devoted fiancé. His entitlement kept growing too. He started cutting people from our guest list without asking me first. My coworker Denise, who'd mentored me for 4 years, gone because Ethan said she was socially awkward. My college roommate Ava, gone because Ethan thought she was too loud. Meanwhile, his old fraternity brothers, men he barely spoke to anymore, all stayed invited. One night, while reviewing seating charts, he casually said, "Your side is getting too big anyway." Your side. Not our wedding. His wedding. His image. His performance. That was when I started noticing how often Ethan spoke about marriage like a business merger instead of a relationship. Then came the post-nup conversation. Again, this time more serious. We were standing in the cereal aisle at Target when he said, "My mom thinks we should protect ourselves financially after the first year." I laughed softly. "Protect ourselves from what?" He shrugged. "You never know what people become later." People. Like I was already some future liability he might need to escape from. The irony almost made me dizzy. Meanwhile, Claire was still active in his phone every single night. One evening, he sent her a shirtless mirror selfie while I was 10 feet away steaming his suit for engagement photos. That was the first night I cried. Not loud. Not dramatic. I sat on the bathroom floor after he fell asleep and cried into a hand towel because I genuinely couldn't understand how someone could look at you with love in their eyes while betraying you at the exact same time. But underneath the grief, something else was forming.
Resolve.
I stopped imagining reconciliation. Stopped imagining explanations. I started imagining exposure. 3 weeks before the wedding, Ethan's parents hosted our rehearsal dinner at an upscale Italian restaurant downtown. About 60 guests. Close family, wedding party, family friends. His father had paid nearly $3,000 for the reservation. By then, I'd barely been sleeping. I'd lost almost 12 pounds from stress alone. Natalie kept checking on me constantly because she was the only person who knew the full story. "You sure you want to go through with this?" she asked me the night before. "No," I admitted honestly. Then I looked down at the USB drive in my hand. "But I'm going to." The night of the rehearsal dinner felt surreal from the second I arrived. I wore a dark emerald dress Ethan once said made me look expensive. He kissed my cheek when I walked in. Actually kissed me. His mother hugged me tightly and said, "Tomorrow, you officially become family." The guilt from that almost broke me. Because unlike Ethan, his parents had genuinely loved me, especially his father. Richard Bennett was one of those old-school men who didn't speak much unless he meant it. Retired military, calm voice, steady eyes. The type of man who made people sit straighter without raising his tone. He'd always treated me with kindness. That made what I was about to do feel even heavier. Dinner moved normally at first. Wine.
Laughter.
Stories about childhood. The best man was eventually supposed to give a toast. Instead, I stood up first. My hands were shaking so badly under the tablecloth, I thought someone might notice. Ethan smiled up at me, completely relaxed. He probably thought I was about to say something romantic. I picked up my phone, connected it to the portable speaker I'd brought earlier for the rehearsal playlist, and said, "Before tomorrow happens, I think everyone here deserves to understand what kind of marriage they're celebrating." The room went quiet instantly. Ethan's smile disappeared slowly. I pressed play. Not everything. I'm not cruel. Just enough. Ethan telling Claire he felt trapped. Ethan calling our relationship complicated. Ethan saying he wasn't sure he wanted marriage. Him asking another woman to meet for drinks. Then the voice note. I think I chose comfort instead of passion. Silence swallowed the entire restaurant. Absolute silence. Ethan's face drained white. Then red. Then something close to panic finally appeared in his eyes. He grabbed my wrist hard enough to hurt. "What the hell are you doing?" he hissed. I pulled my arm free and said loud enough for the room, "I'm giving you the backup plan you wanted." His mother covered her mouth instantly. One of his bridesmaids looked physically sick. His sister stared frozen at the tablecloth, like she might disappear into it. And then Richard stood up. Slowly.
Calmly.
Which somehow made it worse. He looked at Ethan and asked quietly, "Is this real?" Ethan immediately started stumbling over his words. "She manipulated. Is it real?" Richard's voice never rose. That silence in the room became unbearable. Ethan looked around desperately, like somebody might rescue him. Nobody did. Because he couldn't say no. The recordings were his voice. His words. His choices. Richard closed his eyes briefly, then looked at me, and said softly, "Logan, I'm sorry." Ethan's mother started crying harder. Ethan stood up so fast his chair nearly tipped over. "Are you seriously taking her side?" Richard turned toward his son with a look I will never forget. "I was on your side," he said quietly. "Until now." And for the first time all night, Ethan looked afraid. The wedding was canceled before sunrise. By the next afternoon, half the guests already knew why. And honestly, I was too exhausted to care. Canceling a wedding 3 weeks out is like watching money burn in slow motion. The venue kept part of the deposit. The florist kept almost everything. The caterer refunded nothing. Between both sides, nearly $9,000 disappeared overnight. Ethan wanted me to cover most of it. His reasoning? You humiliated me publicly. This is your fault. I actually laughed when I read that text. Not because it was funny. Because after everything, he still thought reputation mattered more than betrayal. His mother called me once crying, saying I could have handled things privately. His sister texted me 3 paragraphs about how Ethan had settled for me anyway. I screenshotted that message and sent it directly to Richard. 2 minutes later, he replied, "I'll handle it." And apparently, he did. Because neither of them contacted me again after that. A week later, I moved out of the apartment. Ethan stayed somewhere else while I packed. I took my clothes, my books, and the coffee machine I'd paid for. Archie technically belonged to Ethan, so leaving that dog behind hurt more than leaving the engagement ring. The apartment looked hollow by the end, like a stage after the audience leaves. Mutual friends split fast. Some reached out quietly to support me, others disappeared completely. Ethan's best friend called me manipulative online for setting a trap. I replied once. I didn't set a trap. I gave him space to tell the truth. Then I blocked him. The worst moment came about 2 weeks later. Richard asked me to meet him for coffee. He looked older when I saw him. Tired. Disappointed. He told me he'd withdrawn the $8,000 he planned to contribute toward the wedding after the rehearsal dinner. Ethan apparently screamed at him for choosing Logan over family. Richard's response? She was family until you treated her like an option. Then he told me something that made my stomach drop. After the dinner, Ethan's mother had checked his phone herself. There were more dating apps, older conversations, some dating back before the engagement. While I'd been planning our future, he'd already been preparing backups. Richard stared down into his coffee for a long moment before quietly saying, "I wish he turned out different." I didn't know what to say to that, because part of me still loved the version of Ethan I thought existed. The rest of me knew that man was never real. Financially, the aftermath hurt badly. I withdrew my half of the wedding fund, $7,000, and left the rest. Between moving costs and canceled deposits, I lost nearly $12,000 total. For a month, I basically survived on ramen and caffeine. Emotionally, worse. Some mornings, I'd sit in my car outside work for 20 minutes, trying to force myself to go inside. I stopped listening to music because everything reminded me of the wedding. Eventually, Natalie pushed me into therapy. Not because I was falling apart, because I needed to understand why I'd spent years loving someone who only saw me as security while searching for excitement somewhere else. The last message Ethan ever sent me came 2 months later. "You ruined my life." I stared at it for a long time. Then I replied, "You already had a backup plan. Use it." He never answered. It's been 4 months now. I live in a smaller apartment with mismatched furniture and the secondhand couch that's honestly more comfortable than the expensive one we picked together. Some days, I still get angry. Some days, I feel relieved. Most days, I just feel quieter. Richard still texts occasionally. Last week, he sent me a picture of Archie asleep on the floor. The little traitor looked happy. That made me cry harder than the breakup did. I don't regret the rehearsal dinner. Maybe it was messy. Maybe public humiliation wasn't the mature choice. But betrayal grows in darkness. And Ethan spent months expecting me to quietly accept being someone's safe option while he searched for something better behind my back. I refused to marry a man already planning my replacement.